This is the story of the most normal landing in the world. Every year, around 40 million people watch a single piece of footage, a jumbo jet, wheels down, screaming low over a beach in the Caribbean, close enough that tourists clinging to a chain-link fence can almost reach up and touch the landing gear. The video is from Maho Beach on the Dutch side of the island of St. Maarten at the end of the runway at Princess Juliana International Airport. It is the most famous airline approach on Earth by raw view count. And by every measurable standard in commercial aviation, it is completely routine. Princess Juliana International Airport is built on a sliver of reclaimed land, pressed between the turquoise Caribbean and the edge of St. Maarten's bustling tourist strip. The runway stretches 7,546 feet long and 148 feet wide, numbers that fit comfortably within the global standard for a major airport. But here, every inch is claimed from the sea. The field sits just 13 feet above mean sea level. There is no bluff, no gentle slope, no buffer of empty ground. The pavement begins almost at the waterline. From the sand of Maho Beach to the start of the runway fence, the distance is barely 150 meters. That is less than 2 city blocks. A public road, Beacon Hill Road, runs right between the two, separated from the sand by a chain-link fence that has become as iconic as the airplanes themselves. There is no real margin. No grassy infield, no security perimeter, no stretch of empty land. The geometry is compressed, and so is the spectacle. On a busy day, hundreds of beachgoers gather under the approach path, sunbathing or holding up phones as jets pass overhead. Every year, nearly 1.8 million passengers move through this airport, arriving on everything from regional turboprops to wide-body jets. KLM's Boeing 747s once made weekly appearances here, their 4 engines throttled back, floating over the beach before touching down. Today, the largest regular visitors are Airbus A330s and Boeing 727s, but the choreography remains unchanged. The airport's low elevation means that the runway sits just above the surf. There is no gradual climb from the sea. The asphalt starts where the land does. Unlike inland airports, where runways are buffered by hundreds of meters of grass or empty fields, Princess Juliana's approach path is squeezed into the narrowest possible footprint. The result is a perfect alignment. The final approach segment, what pilots call the glide path, passes directly over a public beach with nothing but open air between the landing gear and the outstretched hands below. Everything about this setting is ordinary in isolation. The runway's length is standard, the width is standard, the elevation is unremarkable. What is different is the proximity. The entire approach environment, sea, sand, fence, road, runway, fits into a space so tight that it transforms a routine landing into an internet legend. The numbers are not just statistics. They are the blueprint for the illusion that makes Maho Beach famous. A 3-degree glide slope is the most ordinary number in commercial aviation. Every major airport on the planet publishes it. Pilots remember it as the rule of 3, lose 300 feet of altitude for every nautical mile you fly toward the runway. This is not a trick. It is basic geometry written into the International Civil Aviation Organization's Annex 14 and drilled into every pilot from their first instrument approach. The math is simple. Start at 1,000 feet above the ground, 3 miles out, descend at 3 degrees, and you will cross the runway threshold at 50 feet, right where the approach plate says you should be. At Princess Juliana, that same glide slope does something strange to the eye. The beach sits just 150 meters, about 492 feet from the start of the runway. With the standard 3-degree descent, the airplane is only about 26 feet above the sand as it passes over the beach. That is barely the height of a 2-story house. But this is not low flying. It is the exact altitude that geometry demands. The touchdown zone is set by a displaced threshold, a stretch of pavement pilots cannot use for landing. At St. Maarten, the threshold is displaced by about that distance, which shortens the landing distance and pushes the touchdown point deeper into the runway. The approach path does not aim for the start of the asphalt. It targets the displaced threshold, so the aircraft stays slightly higher over the beach and fence before descending to 50 feet right at the touchdown marker. The published threshold crossing height, 50 feet, is not a guess. It is a fixed value on the approach chart, matching the International Civil Aviation Organization standard. Pilots flying into St. Maarten are simply following the same procedure they would use at JFK, Heathrow, or Miami. No special training, no unique certification. The only difference is that at other airports, the last 100 feet of descent happens over grass, concrete, or empty fields. Here it happens over a public beach packed with people holding up cameras. The illusion is powerful. From the sand, a landing jet looks impossibly low, close enough to touch, close enough to feel the wind. But the numbers are unremarkable. 3 degrees, 300 feet per nautical mile, 50 feet at the threshold. The airplane is exactly where it is supposed to be. The spectacle comes from the compressed geometry, not from any daredevil maneuver. What looks like a stunt is actually the most routine procedure in aviation, made dramatic by a runway that ends at the water's edge and a beach that sits directly under the final segment of the approach. The real story is not about pilots flirting with disaster. It is about physics, perspective, and a 3-degree line that never changes, no matter where you stand. A displaced threshold changes everything about how a landing looks without changing how a landing works. At Princess Juliana, that displacement measures exactly 328 feet. The first stretch of runway pavement is off-limits for touchdown. Pilots must aim for a marked line farther down, the official landing zone. That means the approach path does not target the physical start of the asphalt, but instead targets an invisible point 328 feet deeper into the runway. The result is a landing distance available, known as LDA, of 7,218 feet, not the full length. That number is published in every operations manual and on every approach chart. For pilots, it is a routine adjustment. For everyone on the beach, it is a trick of perspective. The glide path stays locked at 3 degrees, but because the touchdown aim point is set back, the aircraft remains higher as it crosses the fence in the sand. The jet is not descending to the edge of the beach. It is descending to a spot well past the road, past the fence, and past the first stretch of pavement. To someone on the sand, the airplane seems impossibly low, yet it is actually following a line aimed at a point out of view. The displacement pushes the touchdown zone away from the spectators, but it also amplifies the illusion that the plane is about to land on the beach itself. This is the geometry behind the legend. The displaced threshold compresses the visible drama and stretches the distance between what looks risky and what is actually happening. There is no pilot improvisation, no special certification, no last-second dive. The procedure is published, charted, and enforced. The spectacle is baked into the numbers. With every landing, the displaced threshold quietly shapes the myth, and it sets up a far more serious hazard that waits on the other side of the fence. A landing jet crossing Maho Beach is running at idle, producing barely 5% of its maximum thrust. The engines are quiet by aviation standards, the wash behind them little more than a gentle breeze. But when a jet lines up for takeoff, the equation flips. At full power, those same engines deliver a force 20 times greater. A Boeing 737-800, common at Princess Juliana, can unleash a jet blast approaching 100 knots, enough to send sand, debris, and even people hurtling backwards. The difference is not subtle. It is the difference between a summer gust and a hurricane pressed flat against the ground. The record of injuries at Maho Beach tells this story in stark detail. In 2000, a Swiss tourist suffered abrasions and burns after the blast from a departing 747 knocked her off her feet. In 2012, a young woman was thrown into a concrete barrier by the exhaust of a JetBlue A320, fracturing ribs and suffering a concussion. The most tragic incident came in July 2017, when a tourist from New Zealand, holding the fence as a 737 throttled up, was ripped from her grip and killed by the impact with a low wall. Police and hospital reports list the cause in every case: jet blast from a departing aircraft. Warning signs line the fence. They display the jet icon and the word danger in bold in multiple languages. Yet the spectacle draws crowds who stand just meters behind the engines, some bracing themselves against the mesh, others filming with phones. The airport authority has reinforced barriers, posted new signage, and assigned security staff during peak hours. After the 2017 fatality, procedures were tightened. Pilots are instructed to delay full thrust until the aircraft is further down the runway, and wind speed monitors now trigger alarms when conditions become hazardous. Still, the underlying reality remains. The hazard is not the low-flying arrivals. It is the invisible force of takeoff, the physics of mass flow and velocity channeled across a strip of sand, indifferent to cameras or warnings. At Maho Beach, the real drama is not in what you see, but in what you cannot. What looks deadly, a jet just 13 feet above the sand, is pure geometry. The real killer hides in plain sight, jet blast from a routine departure, not a dramatic landing. Perception distorts risk. Physics defines it. The danger isn't where you stare, it's where you stand. Stay critical. Stay grounded.